Hello, what's up guys? This is Jouni Juurela from Floorball Made Simple and we are back with another video, and this is a continuing part of the previous coaching small kids video that we did earlier. The previous video focused on how to coach kids from age groups of 5 to 7-year-olds, but in this video we will jump in how to coach 9 to 11-year-olds. Somebody might wonder that, hey, what happened to the 8-year-olds in between? But I'll explain that a little further down to the video. But hey, let's now begin the video. And then a few words about the bigger picture of age group recommendations that I'm sharing with you all viewers and subscribers. I am showcasing these age group specific recommendations in age groups that go according to this picture. I'm not going to read them out loud, but now we are at the second part and we will progress between 2 or 3 years until we hit the 20-year-old mark. So this is sort of the bigger picture of how we progress through the youth ages and what abilities, what capabilities should be formed before another. So if your club doesn't have any structure or guidance on that, how to build a sort of progressive improvement plan for youth teams and kids, you can freely use this as exactly that. And then to the 8-year-olds, I can hear that somebody is saying, what about the children over there? But about the 8-year-olds, I got some feedback from many smaller clubs around the world that many of clubs don't have those 5 or 6-year-olds. So I decided that we should continue on focusing on the same abilities as in the previous video we showcased to the 5 to 7-year-olds, and we should focus still on the same exact qualities here in the 8-year-olds group, which means that we are just adding up to those previous abilities of carrying the ball, going past the first marker, and utilizing and recognizing space around the first marker or the first defender. So we still develop those further and focus on how do we change between those different kind of ball carrying abilities, two-handed, four-handed, to that one-handed backhand side, and so on. So shifting between each of those styles should be developed even further, so that will be in a rock solid base later on. But now we'll start to talk about more about those 9 to 11-year-old kids that this video focuses on. What changes the most in the team play? Well, first of all, still the kids are so small that any sort of awesome passing play where the team plays dozens of passes to the teammate and controls the ball, that is not a realistic goal even yet at these stages. The kids are getting bigger and faster through the biological growing and development, so the tempo of the game rises up a notch, and by that reason the pressure comes to the player with the ball even faster. So the demand for space and time is little higher, so the player will have to do faster decisions and be able to cope under pressure a little more. We're talking about the positional roles in the previous video, and the first role was the player attacking with the ball. Second role is the players attacking without the ball. So the demand and requirement of the players attacking without the ball increases a little bit, and focus shifts a little more into those players. Even though the main focus still remains in the player that is attacking with the ball, but the players attacking without the ball are beginning to provide some sort of support for the player carrying the ball. The ball starts to change its owner a little more, which means that the passing play increases a little more. And now, as the player with the ball is going consistently past his or her first marker or the first defender, the momentary 2 versus 1 situations start to open up more. So now it's more about the continuity of that 2 versus 1 situation. How do I progress the game after I have gone over the player that's marking me? So the focus is a little more on, am I the most threatening player, or is one of my teammates more dangerous for the player in the ball? And the players attacking without the ball, their focus is a little more, how do I support the player that has passed the marker? Or more simply put, how do I support the player that has the ball? And hey, in this video there will be way more great example practices that you can use to develop these skills and abilities that are listed here in this slide. So stay tuned and wait for the example practices later on in this video. But now let's go to the key abilities to drill to be an excellent level in this age group of from 9 to 11. First we begin by the first role, which was attacking with the ball. Still making those going past the marker moves. When you have the first defender in front of you, how you go over that player and past him or her, that is very important. And now, as the basic abilities have been formed in a rock solid base, you need to be able to shift even faster between different types of handling the stick, from two-handed grips to one-handed grips. Those movements should become even more rapid and even more faster. And then as the player is getting over the first marker, going past him or her way more in a game, it's more about finding continuity after going past the marker. Do I shoot? Do I continue to carry the ball? Or do I find a free teammate with a pass? Then the passing in the wide direction of the field increases very much, because the players around the player holding the ball are beginning to provide the wide direction more often in the field. So the player in the ball should be able to choose more often to pass the ball in the wide direction, or more finely said, in the horizontal plane in the field. Driving towards the goal from different angles. This is an important one, because the player will now be able to go past the first marker more often, so they have more open possibilities to drive towards the goal from different sides and angles in the field. So they are starting to utilize, they're starting to figure out on how to use that ball carrying skill to break into the formation of the opponent and go towards the goal. Passing from movement is still a really important factor, and this should be improved in this age group, because the player should be able now to play more passes to his or her teammate after going past the first marker. And increasing the level of amount of different type of shooting techniques from motion is important. So players should be learning the sweeper shot, out sweeper shot, snap shot, in sweeper, and whatever. So the level and time spent on shooting abilities should increase a bit in this age group. And then to the attacker without the ball, focus shifts a little more into that direction as well, and the players should be able to provide especially the width support. To provide the option to play the pass in the wide direction, that is a key thing. Then taking a good first touch in motion. So the player has now positioned him or herself in a way that passing in the wide direction is possible. So now you need to be able to take a good first touch in motion by different kind of techniques. Sometimes in backhand, sometimes in one-hand backhand, sometimes directly to two-handed forehand grip. But in the end, taking a good first touch in motion is important to improve at this stage. and then winning the own marker without the ball. Attacking without the ball is also important, and that increases in this age group. This is the same slide as in the previous video, and nothing in this general information on how to utilize training space, it doesn't change. It doesn't change a bit. Use all the corners of the field and leave none corner unused. Then more info on the actual organization part of the training. Still, the most of the time in training session, all the players should spend the time with the ball, or either actively playing those 1-versus-1 situations where one is in the ball and one is trying to defend against the player with the ball. The 2-versus-2 situations also increase even more at these age groups, so make sure that almost all the time players are spending time on the ball and not standing in any sort of lines. And here below we suggest 2 structures on how you can organize the training session if you have 60 minutes of time. In the first one, if you like to keep the plays and games going on, and this might be better for those that are still age group of 9 or 10. So it begins by plays and games, 10 minutes of those, then come a new part of learning games. That's a new concept that we haven't talked about, and we'll discuss a little more of that later on. Then comes skills and 1-versus-1 struggles and situations, and then the free-flowing games to the rest of the training session. Structure 2, that is a little different, but that is actually the type that I use personally when I am coaching kids that are in this age group. It begins by the learning games, then comes the skills and 1-versus-1 struggles, and ends up to the free-flowing games. Then a few words about the subscriber campaign that we organized. It is still going and there is still almost a week of time to participate. Plenty of people have already participated and the first meetings have been agreed and the dates have been agreed, but there is still a bunch of time. So please participate in this. So here's the deal. If you can get 5 people to subscribe to our YouTube channel Florbal Made Simple, you will get as a reward a free improvement meeting with me, with a professional coach as a reward. And in the meeting we will talk about your current strengths and points to improve as a player. After it, we'll decide together with you. I'm not gonna give any commands that you need to do that, but we decide together what are the next steps of learning and improving for you as an individual, and your improvement will skyrocket and you will become a better player faster. That is for sure a fact. In every team where they do these individual learning and improvement discussions, the players can train more deliberately and they will know better what to focus on, and by doing so they will improve faster. And once you have got the 5 subscribers to this channel, please contact me through my socials in Instagram or Facebook. And now the learning games. This is the most beneficial training type or practice type that I know, and I love these from bottom of my heart. These are really good on getting the players focus on the right track in the beginning of the training session. So these are the sort of free-flowing games where there are such rules, restrictions and instructions that leave enough freedom for the players to decide what to do, but those push the players into desired actions that we want to see in the field. So these focus more on the cognitive side of the players. So what they're focusing on, what they're thinking of, what they are intending to do in the field will focus into the right things and that relate to today's goal that we have in the training session. So the players will start to observe the desired matters defined by the coach. They will start to concentrate onto the right things. They will start to collaborate in a way we want, and they are at the same wavelength, and the intentions are similar. Then we'll describe a little more how the instructing side and the actions of the coaches change in games and practices with this age group. Coaching a little more on the attackers without the ball, so the second role players, increases by a bit. And the questions that we are asking from ourselves as coaches and from the players is that, are the players providing the right direction into the play? So is there support in the right direction? Are the players without the ball ready to receive the ball in the right body position, body direction, and are they scanning towards the next steps? So are they looking at the moment that is happening precisely now, or are they anticipating the next steps already? Then we are preparing the ball carriers to think about the next moments, to anticipate the next steps a little more. What the players are doing once they get past the first marker, are they thinking about it? Or are they just focusing into what happens here and now? Where are your teammates in that moment? Where are they moving? Who is the biggest threat in the situation? You yourself that has gone past the first marker, or is somebody else even more threatening in that moment? And we are giving more info for the players how to provide continuity in total. And those continuities start to arise even more, providing with sometimes passing to the width and thinking a step ahead starts to arise at this age group. And then we have arrived to the good stuff, which is the example practices. This picture is the same small sized skill area that we presented in the previous video, and my message is this: you can use these still to learn those basic qualities on how to handle the ball. And if the kids are only starting out at this age group, in this late age, you should focus on these still. So different types of tags, this exact practice is still very good to use at this age group, and decreasing the spaces, increasing the amount of interceptors or tags, and increasing tempo will do the trick on improvement. And now the first example of a learning game, and this is awesome. So you are playing a 3 versus 3 free-flowing game that has two goals. One team attacks to the other and one attacks to the other. But every time that the team gets the ball and wins the ball, and the ball is recovered to them, they need to play a pass in the right direction before shooting. So they cannot shoot or score without playing that first pass in the right direction. If you slice up the field from the middle, from goal to goal, into two sides of the field, the ball must be passed from before the middle line in that field, which means that the ball starts to shift from wide side to wide side, and it is the positioning of the players on where do they position themselves to that wide direction. That doesn't really matter. All that matters is that they are across the middle line and somewhere in the whole side of that pitch. So it is not predetermined that what is the exact small spot where they need to position themselves, but it is more that recognizing space from the width anywhere. Once the ball is played there, they can attack totally freely, and that is a free-flowing game, and this will get their intentions on passing and using the wide direction. And I'll repeat that it's a free-flowing game. And this version is a 3 versus 3 plus 1 game. And that plus 1 means that there is one player that is different colored than the players in the 3 versus 3. So if there is, for example, a blue team and a black team, like in that picture you have in front of your eyes, it can be a red colored player. But the player that is in the different color is always playing in the same side as the players with the ball. So he or she attacks all the time. The player that is the plus 1 player can position him or herself anywhere in the field and roam totally freely, but that is just an extra passing option. Still, the same restrictions and instructions apply, that the team needs to pass once to the wide direction before shooting and breaking through to the goal. But that plus 1 player creates a scenario where there will be always one player free in the attacking side. So if you want to focus more on that passing play side, you can develop the passing play of the team and the continuity after playing the ball to the right direction through this without using any fixed drills. The passing play will come naturally in this sort of learning game, and they will be able to pass to their teammates better without using any, fixed drills where there are a bunch of lines across the field. And here is a similar version, a 3 versus 3 free-flowing game with 2 goals with basic natural game characteristics. But there is different instruction and different restriction in this version. It does not relate to the passing like in the previous example, but this rather focuses on going past the first marker with the ball. So if you want to emphasize the moments where your player needs to go and challenge the marker and go past the player, this is a better option for it. Or if you want to focus on the moments on when the player has gone past the marker and what decisions is he or her doing in the moment and what type of continuity will they create in that small situation, this is an awesome drill. So once the team wins the ball to their team, one of the players needs to challenge and go past the first marker in order the team to get a permission to shoot and break through to the goal. They can play a couple of passes wherever they like before going past the marker, but in the end they need to go past the marker with the ball in order to get a permission to shoot. Really good exercise on getting their intentions into the direction of winning the first 1 versus 1 situation. And yet again, exactly the same 3 versus 3 plus 1 version where you have the one spare player that is always in the same side as the team with the ball. You can utilize this exactly the same, type of practice, but you just change it up a little bit through the instructions and the restriction, and that will create a totally different scenario. So first, any one of the team with the ball or that extra player, that plus 1 player, needs to go with the ball past the first marker. What this changes is that when the player is going past the marker, the situation will be even a bigger overload, and there will be 1 or 2 players totally free in that moment. So that will shift the intentions and the focus a little more on finding the next solution that comes up after challenging the player. So this might sound a little repetitive to you, that these are very similar training types and practices, but this is just pointing out that you can use the same kind of learning games, but by making small changes to the rules, instructions and restrictions, you will end up on having a totally different practice. And this example practice is the 3 versus 3 sort of a street basketball variation, and this is old but gold, really old. I used to do this as a kid, and probably everybody has been playing some sort of pickup games to one goal. So this is very similar, but in floorball context. So the goalie throws a ball into each of the corners or any of the corners, and then there is a 3 versus 3 situation going on in the field. Once the team gets the ball to themselves, they need to play a pass to the blue line, or you can describe it as a back line, end line, whatever, that is being pointed out by 2 cones in the back area. And they need to progress to that line that is there in the blue line positioning, and you can go there by carrying the ball into the space or passing the ball into the space. So the team needs to go across the line, and then they get a permission to attack. If the defenders receive and recover the ball, they need to do exactly the same thing in order to get a permission to shoot. What situation does this create? Well, once you get the ball into that back line, the players will most likely be facing the goal. And most likely there will be a first defender nearby, and you need to go past the first marker. So this is also a very good way to get the players in such moments where they are facing the first marker and they have a defender in front of them, and they need to go past him or her in order to create continuity into the game. And this learning game is a very good example on how to change up the situation and the spaces that the players need to go over the marker. This one focuses more on the offensive zone offense moments, and 3 versus 3 in the middle of the field, and then the goalie throws a ball into each of the corners. And then the team that recovers the ball to themselves, the player with the ball needs to go past his or her marker with the ball. They can circulate the ball and pass it a couple of times before doing so, but they will only get the permission to shoot and score once a player with the ball has gone over the marker. And those moments will create those momentary 2 versus 1 situations. And like in the picture, you can decrease or increase the space. There is only one cone. Sorry, I left the other one out apparently. But you can make a back line, and with that back line you can decrease or increase the space. So if you put those cones a little more to the side of the goal and nearer to the goal, the space will decrease, and the time and space demand is then harder to the players. And you can play this as a free-flowing game where the change bench or shift bench is in the normal placing in the sidelines, and the players will shift on the fly. Or you can play 20, 30, 40 second shifts through a whistle, but an awesome practice as well. And this version of the free-flowing 2 gold 3 versus 3 game is a little harder to set up and little harder for the players as well, but this will force them to fill the space better in the field. So you have made with cones these 4 sections to the field, so there are 4 sections of spaces in the field, and if you have trouble on that players are coming too close to support the player with the ball, and if they pass the ball to a player, there is no space used. So the players are too strangled up in small square meters. You can force them to fill the space better in this one. And the rule basically is that there can be only one player in one of those boxes. So that restriction will end up on placing the players and positioning the players in a way that they are not too close to each other, and you need to pass from one box to another in order to progress to scoring. And if one team recovers the ball and becomes the team with the ball, they need to do exactly the same thing, and you can use this as a free-flowing game as well. Okay, this one is not a learning game anymore. This is more of that skill space and skill drill to improve. This is a momentary 2 versus 2 situation, and you will get 2 of those 2 versus 2 situations at a time. You will restrict the play in only one side of the pitch, and you can make this as 2 games in the same half of the court. So not that many players will be active on this one, but this is really good on focusing on that exactly the one part, to slice that part of going past your marker. That is really good on demonstrating that. So one team is defending, and once the team defending gets the ball, the situation ends and another will start. One team is with the ball. They have 2 players that are positioned in that way. One begins from the blue line and one begins from the depth of the field. Both of those players will be marked. The player with the ball will start to challenge his or her marker and go towards the goal. He or she can decide to go past the marker and score immediately, or he or she can pass to the teammate that is active in these 2 versus 2 situations. Once the goal is scored, the ball ends up off the court or defender recovers the ball. They will get another ball from that blue line that is played to each or to either one of those players that were already attacking in the 2 versus 2 situation. And they will get an immediate 2 versus 2 situation. Once that ends, the defenders that were in the field go to the shift or change bench, and those that were attacking go to the shift or change bench, and the roles stay the same. So the blue team carries on attacking and the black team carries on defending. And once you have gotten enough experiences from those roles to each of the players, you will shift the roles. So the black team will start to attack and the blue team will start to defend. This is harder to set up. This decreases the time spent on the ball, but this is really good way to push their intentions even more into those precise situations where they are going past the marker, and they have as a bonus a chance to score from those. This is yet again another drill that will create and end up into a 1 versus 1 situation. And this is not recommendable to use in the whole field. You know what I mean is that you can hold 2 of these in each of the half size courts, but there will be only 3 players active in each action point. So it might be beneficial to use this in a 1 half court, and then in the next half court you should use something where more players are with the ball. But if you want to focus on that part where the player receives the ball to the width and then continues and carries on to go in the field upwards to the goal and utilize the space, this is a good way to focus on that and get their intentions and skills towards that. So you will have a player in the middle, as you see, in the almost in the central part of the pitch. Then you will have 1 player in the wide direction that is coming lower in the field to receive a pass. Once the pass is received, he or she starts to drive towards the goal where there is 1 defender waiting for the player. Then a quick 1 versus 1 situation and scoring. After that, the players will circulate and change their positions in the way that is described in this slide. This one is a very basic drill that probably most of the coaches use, but I'll show you a way how you can push the intentions and the desired technical action into one way, that is scoring by a snapshot or a wrist shot from the running and sprint. So one player is attacking and the player is positioned near the sideboard and the defender is in the center already, but the defender will be back against the goal. So he is not facing the goal in the beginning phase. The player with the ball is facing the goal and he or she can decide when he or she starts to drive towards the goal. So the defender needs to hear from his hearing sense that when the attacker is taking the first steps, then they get the permission to turn their body and start to sprint and try to avoid and push the player out from towards the goal and intercept the ball. So the player with the ball will get a small advantage in the situation, and by instructing that the player should shoot fast snapshots and wrist shots from the sprint, will get their intentions in that direction. And after the situation has ended, the players just shift their roles. The other becomes a defender and the other becomes a attacker, and the drill goes on. And here exactly the same drill as the previous one, but the positioning of the players and the starting points of the players are a little different. So this is a way to change it up a bit on the point of view on how do they shoot, and the shooting technique and shooting choice will be different. The player that starts as an attacker will start from the sideboard, but now the defensive player is facing the player that is attacking and starts his or her movement also little lower from the sideboard. The player with the ball decides when the drill begins. He or she starts to drive towards the goal, and the player from the sideboard that's defending is cutting in front of the player and trying to intercept the ball. And once the ball is intercepted, that phase of the drill ends, and defender and attacker change their roles like in the previous ones. But this is just showcasing by how little changes of the player's position you will create a totally different 1-versus-1 situation. And now to the key takeaways of this video. In order to form great and game simulating practice sessions and practices, you need to first, as a coach, imagine that what is the moment that we are trying to achieve and simulate in the field. So you will slice up from the whole complex team play a one small moment that you are trying to demonstrate. And you need to imagine also that what are the individual moments and skills that you are trying to focus and emphasize the most, and then take these into account and create game-like practices. Incorporate all sorts of practice types, plays and games, learning games, skills practices and free-flowing games, and you cannot go wrong. And by changing the restrictions, instructions, starting points where the players start to come and approach the players and areas in the field, and you will have a very, very good practice session. And these sort of learning games that I demonstrated to you, these can totally be utilized in this age group, and if you utilize those, you will have immensely good kids with the ball. So feel free to utilize those. And hey, thank you for watching this video, and if you have any questions, comments, hopes, recommendations, please feel free to contact me on my socials. You can see the accounts and profiles over there. And hey, feel free to use these in any way you like. Hey, thank you for watching. Please like the video, subscribe, and tell about this channel to your mates. Have a good week. Bye.